This is Board Bag Studio, conversations of lifestyle, health, and wellness in the snowboard world. I'm your host, Jesse Paul. This episode is brought to you by Raw Life Superfoods. I myself follow a vegan diet, and something that I have to be aware of is my protein intake, and something that I use regularly is the protein powder from Raw. And that is my cat in the background there. This protein is plant-based, it's organic, it's got some delicious cacao in there, definitely got a chocolatey flavor. And it also has an enzyme blend to help with digestion. Like I said, I eat it all the time. I either put it in smoothies or I'll shake it up in a shaker. Sometimes I might even just mix it up in some water. And trust me, it's good enough to have just in water. I've done that plenty of times. But you get 20 grams of protein in a serving, and I would definitely recommend it. And you can get 10% off with my code Jesse at rawlife.com, and that's JESSE at rawlife.com. So typically on the show, I'm talking to professional snowboarders or people who are on a fast track to becoming so. But today I wanted to step behind the scenes a little bit and talk to somebody who works on the other side. His name is Dave Marx, and he works for Arbor Snowboards. A lot of people knew him or met him as he was working for Mervin for many years, and he is super involved in the snowboard industry. You can tell he is extremely passionate about it. There's no doubt about that, and it seems like he's got a really cool position at Arbor currently. And so we got into a lot of things about marketing. That's the world that he resides in right now, and he has somewhat recently become an avid runner, and so I wanted to hear all about that. And he explains why he got into it, what he does to prepare, and how he gets through these intense long runs. And overall, we just had a great conversation with varying topics, and I hope you guys enjoy it as much as I did, because Dave is a great guy to talk to, great guy to listen to. So let's hear it. And today on the show, we have Dave Marx. How's it going, Dave?
It's going incredible. I mean, day after day, it's, kind of the same shit, but yeah, I'm not hating it.
You're doing all right in quarantine?
Yeah. There's worse places to be quarantined, and I've, kind of hit this nice streak with my roommate, and, we're closer than ever. So there's definitely positive.
That's great. And where are you in the world right now?
I'm in Playa del Rey, California, about 2 miles.
Nice. And how long have you lived there?
Beach, California. And it's, quite a change of pace from where I've been previously. It's sunny 6 days of the week, and it's rained maybe 12, 15 times since I lived here.
Nice. And we can hear some background noise right now. So for those who are listening, you said you're on a walk. No, it's all good. I just want to give some context. So, Dave's out on a walk in beautiful sunny California. Is it sunny right now?
It's gorgeous. Yeah. I mean, it's 65 degrees and sunny.
Nice.
Incredible.
And, you said this is a different kind of climate than what you're used to. I know you somewhat recently moved to California for a position at Arbor. Do you want to explain that a bit? Tell us what you do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, moved down here about maybe 9 months ago now, for a job that, I couldn't really refuse. It was with Arbor Snowboards, and it's proven to be, I definitely had some hesitation just coming from Mervin, from Lib Tech and GNU, and there's so much culture and vibe wrapped up in that brand, and everybody who I worked with, were my best friends, and it was just like this that magic, that you kind of can't replicate is and definitely was there while I was there. But I growing up and getting a little older and kind of wanted to get 2 feet underneath me and start to figure a couple things out myself. And I saw some opportunity with the brand and was reached out to by Sean Black. And just kind of it came at a time in my life where I was just kind of looking for a new challenge and some new work experience and some new excitement. And it's proven to be all those things and more. Just, I would say, given just moving to California, but also
Right.
just working for another brand and understanding the dynamics and how people operate and, what it all comes down to. I mean, it's pretty interesting working with your friends every single day at a brand. And, like it was at a point where at Mervin, I was traveling, basically a month at a time with Sean Lucy and Jesse Bertner, who are two of my closest friends for, 6 years now or something. And,
Yeah.
And it definitely starts to not feel like a job, and you kind of get into that dream world scenario, and you kind of wake up 5 years later and you're like, whoa, that was incredible. But then it's, just natural progression of life. I want to grow and want to see what all else is out there. And yeah, it's been really fun working here and learning about a new team and, just learning about the crew over here. So we have an office up in Snoqualmie. So I haven't had to be like totally distant from Seattle. I go up there, once a month, or sometimes during the heavier seasons twice a month. And so I've really been able to split time between here and there. And so it's allowed me to kind of stay with that crew, Tanner and Tommy and Sean Lucy and Max and Ben and Kit and all those guys we're still skating that park up there, but also make a new life down here and get some sunshine, get a little surf.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Cool.
Change it up
Yeah,
a bit.
it's fun.
And you're doing marketing for Arbor, correct?
Yeah, my apologies. Yeah, so working on I think my formal title is global marketing manager, but realistically I'm the marketing guy. I think I'm the only person that's really doing marketing over there, aside from maybe the founder a little bit. But it's been a trip, man. It's a lot to learn. I'm excited. It's been fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. And how did you get into these positions of marketing? Because it's kind of the same thing you were doing at Mervin. Have you always wanted to be in this kind of position?
Oh man, this is a great question. I actually remember, I was really the first time I envisioned it. I was sitting with Tanner McCarty, who was my roommate in college, and also just one of my best friends for a long time.
And where did you go to college?
I was actually in college at the University of Vermont in Burlington, and it's kind of like the epicenter for snowboarding at the time, at least. Burton was is headquartered there, and Forum at the time was headquartered there, and obviously Analog and Gravis and all these larger companies inside of the space. And it's such a little pocket of snowboard heaven, and so we would everyone would schedule their classes to meet 3 times a week, so you had the remaining 4 days to go snowboarding. And it was just so snowboard centric and activity driven and everything there, regardless of whether you were into ultimate frisbee or wood carving or whatever it was. It was just that town is just so vibrant and built on activity, and everything I think there kind of showcases that. But in any event, so I was rooming with Tanner McCarty at the time, and he's the ride marketing guy as well. And we were kind of chomping at the bit, doing everything we could to get our feet in the industry. And I think he was a little deeper already than I was. And but I just kind of remember I think we were watching Fuck It or something, some old Forum video, or older now but not super old. And and we were kind of sitting there like, I think he kind of like leaned over to me. He's like, what's your dream job in the industry or something like this? And I was like, God, like it'd be so cool to be a team manager. And at that time, like a team manager was somebody who would just traveled with the team and
Yeah.
basically made sure they had hotels and cars and that there was enough booze in the rooms. And and you're in college, you're just like that. You get to travel with your friends. Like, why wouldn't you want to do that? And
Yeah.
I think Tanner at that time was like maybe one summer into High Cascade, working up at Mount Hood on the glacier up there, working with a lot of who would come to be our good friends, but just I think he had a little bit more of a taste of it than I did even. And yeah, and I think from there we were just kind of like, all right, how do we do this?
Yeah.
And I give Tanner a lot of credit because I think he kind of set the stage a little bit, and then I kind of was like able to sort of see how to get in there from based off of some of the things that he had already done.
And you said that he was doing some stuff up at Mount Hood. Do you mean he was like already starting to work with some brands and doing a little bit of that team managing stuff, or?
Well, yeah, in a sense. So like Mount Hood is, I always like kind of refer to it as like a microwave of, brand presence, and
Of course.
everyone's always going up there to kind of like understand how their brand resonates in the industry. And we, I think again, Tanner but Tanner fell into this job of being the I don't know, like working in the demo center
Oh,
at High
okay.
Cascade, which is like low key the best job that you can have at
Yeah,
High Cascade.
to meet everyone and get your hands on a lot of different gear and see not only what the companies are doing with their new product, but also what people are doing and meeting so many pros and campers. And I mean, yeah, it's really the
Totally.
epicenter.
It is. I mean, like you're the tip of the sword too. So like when a guy from a brand or a girl from a brand for that matter comes to camp and they're like, "Hey, how's my product doing that I paid X amount of dollars to put at camp to have all these kids ride before it comes out?" They come to you, so
Yeah.
you're the point of contact. And I think for us that was really like, here we go. Like we have, the table set, and now we kind of need to figure out how we fit into it and see how it kind of all see how the system works. And again, I think it was one of those things where, we were able at the time, it was, Colleen Quigley and Pete Mullenbach and Dave Appel and a bunch of these people from, other brands that are still in the industry for the most part, but just like are kind of like, we're having continuing these conversations with, and then there was some sort of natural progression and you had the connection.
Yeah. That's cool.
But I mean,
And
again, living in Burlington too, it's just like we were doing anything we could to help out with Burton or Forum premieres or like any events and skating the ramp and meeting everybody who worked there. So it was just like, it was really just showing up. Honestly, people ask me, it's just like, you just show up and wonderful things happen.
yeah, and so what was your first kind of foot in the door, if that was for Tanner? Did you start at camp as well?
I did. I ended up starting at camp the following summer. But I would say like there were two real like catalyst moments for me. And one of them was that it would have been, yeah, so 2010, I believe. It was at the US Open. And again, it was Tanner and I, we drove down to the US Open together. It was still at Stratton at this point in time. And we, we were just going down to have fun. It was like spring. It was literally spring break for
Yeah.
University of Vermont, and I'm pretty sure they set it up that way. Honestly, I think
Right.
they wanted everybody from school to come down there. But like people are renting cabins and stuff, and we just kind of went down there without a plan. And I ended up meeting Preston Strout that weekend, who was the former camp director for High Cascade. And I don't know, for those of you that have met him, he's just like, he's kind of he has this aura and this light that he brings to life that is
Absolutely.
yeah, it's really something special, and he makes you love snowboarding kind of more than you thought that you could have because of that magic, whatever he brings to the table. It's kind of the je ne sais quoi. You can't really put your finger on it,
Right, right.
but it's pretty incredible. And I met him, and I was like, this is what I want to do. Like I want to.
Wow.
If he can make me feel this good about snowboarding, and I already feel this good about snowboarding, then this like this has got to be the direction my work and passion falls into, and I'm kind of willing to do whatever it takes to get there.
That's so cool, man. And
Yeah.
and your position at Mervin, where you were working with some of your best friends on a daily basis, did you meet those guys before you started working for Mervin, or did those friendships develop through that job?
Oh man, I'm so glad you asked that. It's I met so I went to camp that summer, 2010 or whatever it was, and I basically got up there. Within 2 weeks, I met Jesse Bertner, who is, a legend in my eyes. And I grew up working at Fat Tracks, which was a shop in East Hampton, and Chris Beresford worked there, and I thought he was, God's gift to snowboarding and to the planet.
Yes.
And I just wanted to be him, like I wanted to be Chris Beresford. I wanted to be Scott Stevens. I wanted to be Jesse Bertner. And they were really like
Right.
the pinnacle for me. And ended up meeting Jesse, and I think even maybe before I met Jesse, I met Pika, and she was filming on on like a mound of like slush, basically. And we were having like full on having a session on this mound of slush. Like I think I was trying like a double backflip or something.
No
Like I don't
way.
know, something stupid. I don't know. Maybe it was like a front flip with like onto a little nub and then like a 180 and out or something like this. And just, classic, just going way too much.
Right.
And she was like so happy about it. Like Pika was losing it. She was lighting up, like couldn't believe it. And that like made me happy. I knew who she was just from like watching every Think Tank movie ever made.
Yeah.
And then they came into the demo center, and this was like, I believe this was the year Mind the Video Man came out. It might have been 1 year prior, but pretty sure Reese had the Ender in it. But
Do you happen to know approximately what year that might have been?
yeah, it was this was summer of 2011, I believe.
Cool.
I'm pretty sure. So that might have been even Ransack year. But in any event, Pika and Jesse Bertner came into the demo center that day after the session, and were just like grinning ear to ear, and I think they stayed an extra hour, and we just talked about life and snowboarding as we generally do. But it was the kind of the first time. And I saw an opportunity to just like bolster this thing that was so important to my upbringing inside of snowboarding, and I wanted some part of it. I wanted to feel even closer to it, and so I was like, hey, like, would you guys be down to do a premiere in Burlington, in Vermont? Because I was going to school there, and I think Pika was like, yeah, like I think that's like kind of our plan. I think we want to do that, and so we stayed in contact over the next few months, and I was like, hey, like I really want to do this. I found the theater,
Oh,
I
cool.
sell tickets, and do the raffle or whatever. You guys can just like, I'll send you guys all the money or whatever, and they were like, yeah, totally, we're down.
Dang, they were probably so stoked to have someone just really step up to the plate for something like that.
Yeah, I know. It was yeah, they were super stoked, and at that point in time, I like, had solidified Brandon Reese and Sam Holbert and Sean Lucy as some of my best friends, and they were all in town, and they came out for the premiere, and we freaking sold the Roxy Theater out, like
Wow.
200 people or something. I remember like Mark Wakeling, who worked at Burton, I remember he's like, pretty tall guy. He was standing in the back, and I just could see his head in the standing room area, and I was kind of like, all right, we did it. We sold every seat out.
That is
And
so sick.
Yeah, yeah. So I was like a sophomore or something in college, and I just remember being like over the moon about that, and that
Wow.
again was like kind of put the wind at my back to be like, I think this is something I could excel in because I like care about it and I want to be a part of the cultural creation and all that, and I just think they do such a good job with it.
The sheer drive and passion that I'm hearing out of your voice and out of this story is so inspiring. It's just so cool. You basically just like manifested all of this for yourself.
I mean, to an extent, but I just like can't say it enough. Like if I didn't, I'm so, and this is another reason why the quarantine is pretty hard for me is like I'm just fueled by the people around me and the energy that they bring.
Yeah.
That, like I probably, maybe would have done it if it were just me, but the fact that it was Jesse Burtner and Sean Lucy and Tanner and Brandon Reese and these people that I just, you know, worship to an extent. It made it I have to do it versus I want to do it.
Yeah, yeah. That's awesome.
But yeah,
And
yeah.
so what did you study in college?
I studied marketing. Yeah, so I was
Right.
in the business
Okay.
school.
Makes sense.
But yeah, it was. I was just telling my roommate. I kind of wish I went back to school. Or sorry, I wish I went to school now versus then. But
Why do
yeah,
you
it
say
was
that?
it was fit. I just, I feel like I know more about myself right now, and something happened to me like in the last 5 years, and I'm just way more process driven than I ever was, as I'd say until I was 24, 25 years old. And like if I could go back to school and relearn everything that I learned, I just feel like I would be a little bit more of a sponge, like I,
Yeah.
I
I
was,
mean,
I
that
was,
probably has
yeah,
something to do with having some real world experience as well, and really
totally.
seeing opportunities and where you could take that information that you would learn and really bring yourself to the next level. Where, I feel like that's the problem with everybody in college at that age is like there's not when you're not directly applying things that you're learning, you're not really gonna keep it. And now that you're in a position and you've done all these things, if you could take that information from college and you can see the way that that could directly improve your life and improve your career, I think that's totally a natural feeling.
Exactly it. That's exactly it. And I think, like what the snowboarding industry has really taught me is that, like, no one's ever just going to hand you anything, especially inside of the snowboarding industry. It's a lot of
Yeah,
bootstrapping. It's a
you got
lot
to
of
make it happen.
figuring out. Yeah. I mean, that firsthand. Like, it's, people are going to tell you what you want to hear, but ultimately, until you see it on a piece of paper, it isn't real. So
Right.
it's a lot of just taking what you have and what you can definitely have, and creating the best thing that you can with it. And I think that's a lot of what what's the industry has taught me. But again, just to your point, like you're right, it would have been putting the cart before the horse a little bit. It's just when you're in school and you're like, I'm paying all this money to go to school, and I'm
Yeah.
basically doing work for somebody else, and it doesn't add up in your mind, and then you
Right.
get out of
Right.
it and you're kind of like, okay. But I mean, I don't know. I studied sociology too,
Oh,
and that was
cool. Like
like
minor.
that was kind of like, yeah, I was one or maybe two classes away from like double major, but it was
Oh,
like
cool.
that that felt kind of like, and this isn't to discredit sociology majors at all, but it felt like a little bit more like recess for me. Like it was just I don't know, it's so interesting to look at culture and our society and how we react on like kind of a macro scale to certain things, especially like applying it to a situation like quarantine. Like I took
Right.
some class on like disaster and how people react in disaster, and
Oh, wow. That's very relevant.
it's just so it's super relevant to, yeah, it's incredible. And I think but I don't think it's a coincidence. Like when you look at marketing and you look at how it's tied to speaking to a large population and just understanding people, I think it's all kind of tied together
Oh,
somehow.
absolutely. I mean, I split my college career between product design and anthropology.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, and I felt like, I mean, I'm sure this is along the same lines that you're talking about. It's like anthropology was so interesting, but I felt like it wasn't really giving me anything applicable and necessarily real other than the ability to write and I guess think
Yeah.
deeply about large topics. But then my product design classes and like when I took some marketing classes with that as well, and it felt very like, okay, this is like I'm actually learning skills that I can use and see in the real world.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was a nice balance, and I'm sure the same for you because you need to get a little bit of mindset from like I feel like the best marketing and the best product design things like that is motivated by uh
Oh
deeper
yeah.
human values and drives and you can't really do it right without really understanding the human aspect of it.
One
And so
100%. 100%. I mean, yeah, we always talk about it, just like being boots on the ground, and that's kind of just referring to like you kind of gotta have done it or be doing it to really have, a pulse on what's going on. And that's where, when you get some sort of like more top down directive from people leading brands that aren't really into what is actually happening is when things kind of can go astray. It's like it
yeah,
sucks to be doing everything and be at the events and be, just I would say just being a little spread too thin, maybe. Even that might be my own self-fulfilling prophecy, but um, like I think you get a much better understanding of what's going on when you're actually doing it versus phoning it in.
totally. And so at Arbor, I guess I have kind of a twofold question. Um, First of all, do you feel like you have a decent amount of freedom to kind of do what you want? And secondly, what does a typical day look like? What exactly are you doing as a marketing manager?
That's another. You're crushing these questions. That's a really really good one though. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I have insane freedom. To the extent that that there are real expectations and deliverables that I need to ensure are created. Even from day to day, as much as posting an Instagram or just talking to reps and making sure people feel like of something that. But yeah, the freedom that I think that I've been instilled with the people that I work with is like, hey, we trust you to do your job, and we know that you're doing your job, so do it as it fits for you. But oftentimes, catalog season or content creation season, I mean, you're on the road and you're writing a presentation in the back of a rental car in Austria or something, and you're just like on your phone or something. And so so the freedoms that come with it don't come, without as Spider-Man's uncle or whoever said, with great power comes great responsibility. And
Right.
there's a element of truth to that. It's like you do get the freedom, but it's how it fits in the storytelling for you for the year, and you got to make sure that it's justified and that it all
Right.
makes sense. But
So
yeah. So what was
do you feel like you're
sorry?
almost kind of like a black box where the higher ups are kind of like, hey, we want, X, Y, and Z to happen. Do whatever you need to do for that to happen, and they don't really see the day to day or anything. But and then it just comes out, and it's like you put in the work however you need to.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say to an extent, it's a I work with a pretty unique crew at Arbor in the way that the business is structured. But like, I would say the people who I work closely with are super in tune with what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. Not maybe at a granular task level, but just like they know that I'm going to Quebec to be with the crew and we're going to go film this thing with John Stark, and I'll be back, and then they'll see the 7-minute edit and 150 photos that were shot. And I think to that extent they have a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I think my goal and my advice to people who fall into this sort of like almost kind of like freelancy, but also very structured in the sense that you know what you need to provide, position is like, don't make them reach out to you to check in. Make sure that you're the one that's checking in with the objectives and the deliverables that you kind of said that you're going to provide, even if it's just kind of a teaser. I think it's like, it's really important, and it's, you know, often an overlooked thing in our industry to just kind of be upfront and be, you know, like, on time to an extent.
Yeah.
Which I may say that a little bit less literally, because I show up a couple minutes late. I'm not gonna lie about that.
Well, there's definitely a little bit of an air in the industry that people are a little bit more relaxed than other work environments that I've seen. And especially as long as you're kind of genuine and you're really just communicating with people. Like, if a video is supposed to come out on a certain day and it's like a few days late, but people are like, oh, this is just why this is happening. Nobody's really making a fit about it.
Yeah. You're right. It's kind of on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I totally agree with that. You're kind of your biggest asset and kind of own worst enemy to an extent, but
right.
It's, once you get used to it, it's pretty fun.
Yeah. And so what's your experience with working for a snowboard company in Southern California?
Oh man, a lot more traveling.
Yeah.
Needless to say. But yeah, I guess I'm kind of getting broken into it. It's super interesting. And I have to be honest with you and everybody else who's listening. Like it's actually happening, and I have less opposition to it now than I did when I was moving.
Right.
I was definitely under the thought that like I just would be so distant and so far removed from it that it would be pretty hard to really stay in and know and be a part of this, you know, show up to things. But it actually hasn't been too bad, aside from not getting as many POW days in at Baker or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I think working at a brand in Southern California, man, aside from the people that you're surrounded by, just not at the brand specifically.
Yeah, just the people you see on the streets and at restaurants and who you're hanging out with on a daily basis.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you're just kind of with these people that I think look at their life more as an appearance than what they're actually doing, and maybe want or look or feel a certain way. And that was a broad generalization, and I don't mean that. I actually have met a lot of people that I think are complete opposite of that in LA, but yeah, I think just that's a general perception, is that you walk around and people are just kind of like aloof and very concerned about what they have going on, which to some extent, I think we all kind of are, and maybe it's just a little bit more honed in here because that's LA, most baby. Prominent. Yeah, that's the most prominent profession, is people having to look a certain way. But,
right.
But no, I think it's kind of a unique selling point for you and I, like living in California and working for a snowboard brand. I think when you when you meet people and you get to talk about, not only my question, like as of recently, isn't like what you do. It's like, what are you about? Like for me, it's like, I'm about like eating good meals with my best friends, and like,
oh yeah,
going for a skate and basically avoiding things that I don't want to do if I get to hang out with people that I want to hang out with and stuff. And I don't know. I think that's like kind of the biggest difference, is like there's a little bit less of the sense of snowboard community built inside of LA. So you kind of have to create it yourself. But whereas if you're in Seattle or Portland, it's like you walk into a shop or you walk to even a coffee shop, and people are wearing the brands and the gear that, you're peddling. And it's like, you can have a conversation with them about snowboarding. So it's like, you find somebody here and you're like, oh shit, you snowboard? Like,
it becomes a unique thing that you're like, oh, cool. Like let's talk about it.
And word to the wise, the mammoth sticker on the back of the windshield of people's cars down here isn't always an indicator that they snowboard. Just throwing that out.
Yeah, that's funny. Oh man. I'm surprised at the amount of people that I meet out here who do snowboard. And just like how many people go
Oh
up to
yeah,
Bear on the weekends and things like that. It feels like,
dude.
when you're here and you're out in the sun and everything, it just doesn't feel like you're even close to snowboarding or anybody who knows anything about snowboarding, but they're kind of all over the place. It's just a
Totally.
different, it's just a totally different thing. People aren't
Oh
wearing it on
yeah.
their sleeve.
People are grinding out here. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like anything else. You're like, what are you doing this weekend? You're like, yeah, I'm gonna drive 5.5 hours and go hit Mammoth. And you're like, what? Like,
Right.
that sounds psycho. Like and maybe it's just coming, but it reminds me of the East Coast, honestly, like growing up and like you leave the house at 5:15 to get there at, 9 or whatever, Killington, and you're like, it's like brick out. It's fucking blue ice. And you're just like,
You're
you're,
going.
you're the happiest guy you've ever been. And I think that's like, you definitely lose a little bit of that being in the Northwest, but it's funny to see it here. You talk to these like, young professionals and who should be like, working on their, I don't know, on their yard or some shit. And they're like, yeah, I'm driving to Mammoth this weekend. Like, and you're like, respect.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. But,
Yeah. And
yeah,
I feel like I was more resistant to kind of like how you're saying when you first were moving out here, you thought it was a little weird and you kind of resistant to it. I sort of felt the same way. I moved out here kind of being like, oh, change it up. This is going to be interesting and quite a ride, but I don't know what's going to happen. And it really is. Yeah. If you put in the effort, like I really don't feel like I'm much further away from the whole snowboard industry and community
no,
than I was before. And if anything, it makes you more grateful for the things that you appreciate about the snowboard industry. And it makes you,
totally.
when you have to put in a little bit of effort to get to those people that you love snowboarding with or go to the events and stuff, you're there. And it's like, yeah, I'm out here doing this. I'm doing what I love. And
100%.
it's not just right in front of your face on a daily basis. Like it makes you appreciate it in a different way. And then I think on the other side of things, being somewhere like LA, there's so much opportunity in so many different industries, and being able to connect with
Yeah,
people. When I talk to people and they hear that I'm in the snowboard industry, they hear I'm a pro snowboarder, and they are, have this badass job in a totally different industry, and we can talk about it and connect on this really cool way that people are like, oh yeah, you're doing your thing, you're grinding on that side and I'm grinding on this side, and you like have this really cool conversation. And it's just like it opens you up to different opportunities and industries, and especially being at basically the
totally.
epicenter of production, you all of a sudden, like, people can respect what we do from a media level as well, which, like, I have so many friends here who don't snowboard, don't know anything about snowboarding, but they love going to the premieres that I've told them about just because they love film, they love production, and they
Totally.
themselves are involved in one way or another of media production, and it really makes you see like, oh, this isn't just snowboarding that we're involved in. We're also involved in this larger media production industry, and it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny you say that. I've been like kind of chalking it up to, like, I say it a lot, but just like contributing to culture. And it's funny, like you go back to the East Coast, or for me, I'm from there, and I'll like kind of tell people what I do. And this is probably, again, something that I perceive and isn't real, but it's like there isn't so much of a tangibility to being like, yeah, I'm a, marketing manager or whatever for a snowboard brand. And they're like, oh, cool. And and
Right.
you come out here and I'm like skating Westchester or something, like, and I, like whatever, I'm just hanging out, and some dude rolls up to me and he's like, yo, what's up? And I'm like, hey, and we start chatting, and he's like, yeah, I'm the, program director for High Times or something, and like,
Right.
and I think about it on the same standpoint where you're just like, there's jobs in all over the place, and they all kind of carry different weight. And I think how people are brought up and where people live or change their perceptions of it. But it's like, we're all like doing this thing and creating moments and pieces and bits and culture. And it's like,
Absolutely.
it's all so incredible any way you slice it. And it's like it's cool. LA is cool for the exact reason that you said. It's just like you go out and you're in this production capital where you meet people that are creating, whatever, and you're
Yeah.
just like, wow, that is incredible, like incredible.
It's
But
so cool. Yeah.
yeah,
And even just being able to get involved in different things and going to premieres and art shows and things like that. There's just
yeah,
like, yeah, I mean, I don't want to beat it down too much, but there really is just so much going on here that is
totally.
interesting, and you can kind of draw influence from. There's like a wider array of cultural things and media things happening that can spark ideas.
Yeah, totally. And you just like overhear, like our neighbor yesterday was talking about like the difference of, I overheard this, like our neighbors talking about the difference of like launching a show on Netflix and the strict dates, and the difference of launching a show on Apple TV. And I'm like,
Yeah,
how, like, this is something about,
yeah,
it's wild, but
yeah, it's so cool.
yeah,
Um, Nice, man. Well, I want to pivot a little bit here.
yeah.
So you, as many people who know you probably know, you're very into running, and I want to know the story behind that. Is that something that you recently started getting into, or have you always had an itch for running?
Oh man, I like kind of hope people don't know that,
Well, I guess I
but
just say that because
no.
there's been a couple times that where maybe it was last year or something where when you were training for the marathon, you have your shoes
Yeah.
and we're all hanging out, and then you're like, all right, I'm gonna go on my however many mile run, and everybody's just sitting on the couch like, okay.
Yeah, no, the running thing is so weird. It kind of, I don't know, it's one of those things that kind of found me, and I'm like not on my high horse about it at all. And I actually don't know my ass from my elbow when it comes to running. I think it was something like my mom got sick at like a year and a half ago, or just about, maybe just over now, and I guess maybe it's 2 years ago. And I just transition point in your life where you're just like, you're kind of like looking around you at what is meaningful, and you're kind of trying to put the pieces in place, and like, just I'm not like a midlife crisis, but something like that, where
Right.
you're
Yeah. I
just
mean,
kind of like
a big
you
impactful
doing a
moment
little
when you're
inventory.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, doing a little inventory, and I was just kind of like, I was reading a friend of mine, Lee, told me to read the Nike memoir, Phil Knight's memoir, Shoe Dog,
Okay.
and I was kind of like in this like headspace where I was just like constantly trying to figure out how to be better at the things that I was doing, and just again, I told you I hit this like process driven moment where I was just like, I want to hone in on things versus instant gratification and having them come out the way I expect them to come out the first time. And that was like a big roadblock that I'd just been dealing with. And again, I think it was just kind of popping up all over my life. And I was reading that book, and he starts, Phil Knight starts running in these like stressful moments, and they basically refers to it as like the moments where he could like really clear his head and find clear thinking in really tough moments. And so I was like kind of going through some of these weirder family moments and whatever. And I would, yeah, just like start going out for a run. I was just like, fuck it. I'm going to go. I've never ran before. I like, whatever, run a little bit in college. And, it kind of was at that point, like I was running away from something quite literally.
Mm.
But what it ended up turning into was just like this very, very poignant, concentrated moment of clarity that I knew that I could get, anywhere, in any condition, in any weather, really, really fast. And so like, yeah, I would just be,
From running.
on a trip. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You can walk out your door, and, like people say it about skating, and I definitely do get that from skating, but I would say one is the weather. You know, we live generally in these snowy climates or rainy climates, especially Seattle. Can't really like just walk out your door and push.
Yeah.
And that being said too, you know, there's like a little bit of hate with skate where it's just like when you're trying to battle a trick or something and it's not coming around, it can almost like make you more upset. But again, the process driven piece, I was just like, I can put on my shoes, walk outside and go for a run and be back in half an hour and exert all the energy that I need to. And yeah, that's kind of like how it started.
And you said that was about a year and a half ago?
Yeah, just about, I think, because I think I ran the marathon in November. Yeah, so it probably would have been just about a year and a half ago, maybe almost 2.
Right. So you basically, how long? Well, actually, before I forget, can you repeat the name of that book?
Yeah, it's called a Shoe Dog.
Cool.
And it's a Phil Knight's memoir about, you know, he started Nike, and yeah, that was like pretty, I would say right around that time. Yeah, I was just, like I said, just kind of taking inventory. And
yeah.
I'd read another book right around the same time called Grit by Angela Duckworth.
Yeah, you had recommended that to me recently. I'm excited to dive into that one.
Yeah, that one I would say had maybe, like, I think Phil Knight kind of set the table, and then Angela Duckworth came in and kind of like gave me the process and sort of started how to figure out how to navigate the, you know, that process of like persistence and perseverance and walking through sort of those steps where you're just like, I don't really know what to do, but I know what the end goal is. And I know if I can get there, that it's going to feel really good.
Right. And so what the end goal is? Are you referring to the marathon, or are you referring to something bigger in your life?
My answer to that is just yes. It was like, I was initially going to run a half marathon, and then I started running and I was like, this is actually pretty easy.
So sorry, just to backtrack a second, you started running, and then was it like you started running and simultaneously you're like, I'm going to actually run and do a half marathon? Or did you start running and then you're like, you know what, I'm going to push this, let's do a half marathon? Like, what was the build up there?
It was like overnight. I went for, you know, like, I don't even think I ran 3 miles like right out the gate. And then I don't think I ran anything under that ever again. You know,
my God. Wow.
It was just kind of like, I'm just going to go, you know, I was like,
yeah,
going to kind of go and figure it out. And then I don't know. And I'm not like at all trying to like toot my own horn by any means. It just was like, in my mind, it was just like, I need to just do this, and then I'll kind of feel accomplished.
Yeah. And so, do you experience runner's high?
Oh my God. Like,
I figured.
Oh my God. I experienced runner's low pretty bad last night, but
oh yeah,
like just low blood sugar, like feeling
man.
like you're going to your engine shutting off. But no, runner's high it took me probably 6 months to really like understand it, because you kind of have to get through the fatigue, but and like the moments where your muscles feel like they're going to explode. But yeah, runner's high is a real thing. It's crazy.
Yeah,
sometimes you just feel like big. You're just like, oh my God, I am a beast right now.
Dude,
I'm such a beast.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And for me, it doesn't even happen once I'm like really pushing myself to the point of exhaustion. It really only takes me about 15 minutes of running at a decent, like, you know, pushing in a decent way. To really start to get that feeling. But I totally agree that it's something that was cultivated, and there's so many people that absolutely hate running, and they're like, I don't understand runner's high. Like, it just sucks. I'm uncomfortable the whole time. I was having a conversation with my brother the other day, and he said he'll run like 3 miles, and he pushes through it. He hates it, but he knows it's good for him. And So
Sounds about right.
I don't know. I feel like it's something that you have to kind of embrace the uncomfortable feelings, and I think music helps as well. And
Yeah.
really, just like really, understanding that you are accomplishing something and you're pushing through something. And I don't know. Do you have any other ideas of how somebody who doesn't understand how runner's high could even be a thing? Like, what? How do you get there?
How do I get I mean, it's just like what I've been telling people. It's like kind of like snowboarding in a sense. It's like, they always say like if you, I don't know if they always say this, but like, if you can make it past like the third day of learning how to snowboard, then you kind of hit that like exponential curve of understanding it and like really getting better at it. And I kind of feel like it's the same thing for running. Like you have to run through, even if you don't go that far, like you kind of got to run through the little aches and pains in the beginning because your body does adjust to it. And I think it's like one of those things is like when you can kind of overcome, and it's almost like a meditation to some point when you
Yeah.
can like let go of fucking hating it
Right.
is when you're going to enjoy it. And I know that sounds stupid, but it's like when you can let go of like, I'm thirsty, my legs hurt, I don't want to do this, this is boring, is when you can be like, this is actually kind of awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's funny. I kind of have a little bit of an anecdote. I was like, I kept a safe social distance, but was just like running. I signed up for a half marathon here, like on the 13th, and obviously didn't happen. But I was like, ah, fuck it, I'm gonna run it anyway.
Yeah.
And
That's awesome.
I was out on the run, and my buddy Amos called me, and he was like, dude, how's the run going? And I was like, it's actually going great. And I was like 9 miles in at something, and I was just like, Jesse, I got so like this runner's high I've never got in my life. And I was just like, fuck it, I'm going 19. Like, I'm going to
Oh
do the,
man.
COVID-19 or whatever it
Oh
was.
wow. Yeah.
And, dude, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And that was like the heaviest runner's high I've ever felt. And I think, again, like being fueled by your friends and fueled by the people around you, like, I think sometimes the places you choose to run or the time you choose to run can be conducive to like getting that runner's high. And I think like I would, if I were you, like, if you're really looking to feel like a runner's high and you've kind of been training a little bit or running a little bit and you're like searching for it, you're not quite feeling it. Like sometimes for me, if I run like through a town or like a city block or something where there's people kind of around, you can kind of like get a little bit of oomph or a little bit of energy from just like people stewing or stirring around you or something. I don't know.
Hmm.
Sometimes that's like helpful
Interesting.
for me. Yeah. But I know people like run on trails and sometimes maybe that's your thing. I don't know.
Yeah. What's
But
your go-to in Venice? Do you run along the beach or do you actually run kind of in the streets?
I was running on the beach until like, I don't know, 3, 4 weeks ago. There's like that path that just runs along it. But
Yeah.
yeah, now I'm like, I kind of have a route that goes up a hill and then down another hill and then up another hill. But yeah, just in the street, mostly just, again, trying to kind of be aware of the social distancing thing. But yeah,
Yeah.
just kind of pick a direction and run there until I'm halfway to whatever distance I want and then turn around.
Yeah. And so when you're running something like 19 miles, that's obviously a huge stress on your body. What do you do for recovery? Are you doing anything with nutrition, or are you like foam rolling, stretching? What's kind of your protocol to stay, not dying?
Yeah. I mean, I would say this isn't the last one I did isn't like maybe the best example, but like I did get back and I was like ravenously hungry and I had like like a bowl of fruit. I think I ate like a pear, a jar of applesauce, like a thing of grapes, and like, had like a popsicle and a smoothie or something. I just like craved, my body was just like
Yeah.
wanted sugar so bad. But yeah, nothing honestly. I should be better at it. I would say, when normal things are in order, I'm going to yoga and and, really giving my body the recovery that it kind of deserves and kind of stretching it out. I think running's a lot of impact. And I, I got to be honest with you, I'm like not the best at home stretcher.
Yeah.
And I do notice the difference when I do it, and like I'll go skate, and if I've stretched for half an hour before I go skate or something, it's a different ball game. But yeah, I don't know. I would say my routine is like I'll do like a core workout or something, like a short one, which I've been like religious about before, and
Before
then
you
go
run.
for the run. Yeah, generally. I used to do it after, but it
Huh.
just was like
Can you
too
walk us through
sweaty
that?
and tired. Yeah, I can actually send you the link so you can walk yourself through it. But it's just literally a YouTube video that it's like some like hokey 10-minute ab video that I looked up when I was in Europe, and I was just, straight up meat and cheese diet, and I was like feeling crazy,
Hmm.
and I just needed like a little bit of something to set me right. And it's like mostly it's kind of like a circuit, I guess. It's like starts out with some more like leg lifts stuff, like different variations of leg lifts, and then some like crunch variations, and then some like side plank variations. And it's like kind of like, high reps, like pretty fast, and it's 10 minutes, so you can kind of crank it out wherever. And I don't know, just get your heart rate going. I honestly have been doing it every day. I like
Yeah.
feel really good right
Well,
now.
yes. I mean, since we're in quarantine, that's something that people, I'm sure, would love to check out and get into. Is
Yeah.
there like if somebody was just on YouTube and they were just going to search it? I actually have YouTube pulled up right now. What would I search?
If you literally, this is so embarrassing. If you literally type in 10-minute ab video or something, I think type in 10-minute abs, and there's like a cute blonde girl, and it says like no fitness equipment necessary.
Pamela Reef?
And
Is that
yeah,
her?
it's got like
Pamela Reef, or
gazillion
is it
views.
Alexis Wren?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Pamela Reef.
No, it's Pamela,
Cool.
whatever her name.
10-minute ab
Yeah,
workout, no equipment. Pamela Reef. Cool. Yeah,
yeah.
everyone check
And
that
it's
out. I'll give it
it's
a try.
yeah, it sucks for like 2 weeks, and then it's fine. You're like struggle
Yeah. Well, I
then you
mean, that's awesome,
calibrate.
man. And you were saying, I was talking to you the other day, and you were saying that like you have this incredible feeling that your body is kind of how it's supposed to be. You feel strong and powerful and good. Um, and that's probably a
Yeah,
combination of the core stuff and the running. And I mean, do you want to expand on that at all? How can other
yeah.
people kind of get to where you're at?
I mean, I wouldn't say it's like necessarily like to where I'm at, but like I will say to
Well,
you,
I guess
yeah,
I'm
I do
talking about
feel
more
like,
not necessarily where you're at physically,
yeah,
but just like that mindset. I mean, people want to feel good about themselves,
yeah,
and I think that's a really valuable quality to have that feeling. And I know it because when I'm really, doing a lot of things right, and I feel like I have purpose and I'm accomplishing a lot of things in my daily life, not only dealing with my physical self, but also just
right.
like, like what brought you to feeling so good?
Yeah, no, no, I think that's a super good question. I just honestly, it was a mixture of things. I was kind of like, initially I wanted to do my best ever at the Baker Bank Slalom, so I started doing yoga,
Oh, sick.
and then and then I like started running, and then things kind of like snowballed a little bit, and um yeah, and I just kind of like I I knew I could basically tell at that point that I needed, a, an hour or something an hour or just about of some sort of physical activity where I was like kind of giving it my all, because I think like you strike some sort of balance where you're working, and you're dealing with all your family stuff, and you hit that similar like threshold of giving it your all, but it's in a different capacity. So you kind of just, like weigh it out a little bit. Like, all right, I just did 6 hours of work, and I was kind of going all in on that. So I kind of got to go all in on this thing to kind of like replenish that. And I think it's just kind of like a balance that is really hard to understand, although you know you need it and your body knows you need it. And I think the only thing that like is really resistant to it can be your brain. So like you sit in quarantine and you have nothing to do, and you know you're kind of sitting in this pressure cooker of your mind, and you're your own worst enemy. And so
Yeah.
like if you just force yourself to do something that maybe you don't necessarily want to do, but you know you're going to come out feeling better for, is when you're going to feel your best. Or at least that's in my mind. Like, you know, the kind of like jump off a ledge or like 1, 2, 3, go, you know, like, you know that it's good for you. So just do it. And I know that's way easier said than done. And it's just like, but I think ultimately when you practice doing the things that like you don't want to do is when the other things are, you can cherish them a little bit more. And it just so happens that when you're doing some sort of physical activity or like running or a freaking ab workout, you ultimately do end up feeling not only mentally better, but quite a bit physically better. And I don't know. It's not something, again, I wouldn't have put weight on it 5 years ago, but like right now, I feel my body feels really good, and it's something that you kind of get addicted to, and you know, at times like almost a little shameful about if you don't do it, but like, I don't know. Yeah. Again, for who knows, in 2 months I might take a break or something, but for the time being, it's just like, it's something I kind of like know I want and got to do every day. And it ultimately ends up making me feel accomplished and like I'm doing something that is not only good for my career, for my life, but just my body, and kind of keeping my ship pointing in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you had mentioned to me that that you had also done something a little bit different with your diet. You said you were eating some more meat, and that was having an impact on the way you were feeling. Do you want to get into that a little bit?
Yeah. No, totally. I'm like a pretty sparing meat eater. But it was more from just like, I don't know. I have, you know, friends that are vegan and they're dealing with different plant-based diets, and which I'm super into. And I would say aversion to meat, at least initially, was kind of from the standpoint of like, I was constantly looking for like quick protein. Like I was just kind of like exhausted all the time, and I was just like, I need something to fuel the tank, and I would just get like low blood sugar, and I was just like, I need something in there. So I get like, you know, a chicken sandwich or whatever from X restaurant, and it would do the trick. And I had a little bit of a moment of like disconnect from what I was eating. And, you know, I told you it's sociology minor or whatever in college, and read Michael Pollan's like In Defense of Food and
It's a great book. I definitely would recommend that to people. In Defense of Food.
No. Yeah, that's Michael Pollan is incredible.
Great author.
That book is, he kind of talks like he writes like he talks. He's incredible. But yeah, it kind of like brings some things to light, and I just felt pretty disconnected from my nutrition, and you know, just from the standpoint of like, I never really like killed anything, and it felt weird like eating something and not having experience, like, you know, killing something. I know that sounds super weird, but
that doesn't sound weird to me at all. I've actually I eat plant-based diet, and I feel like if I ever kind of, which who knows what the future is going to bring, but if I transition into more of a balanced omnivorous diet, I definitely probably want to take myself hunting, because I feel that like almost spiritual compulsion to, if I am going to eat animals, I should know what it's like to end the life of another animal. And that's just, you know, it is a little out there and a little woo woo, especially for the majority of people who eat meat without even really considering it. But I think there's validity to that standpoint for sure.
It's nice to hear you say that. Like, honestly, I like kind of came to that in my mind, and I was like, this kind of sounds crazy. But no, I think what you said was exactly what I came to grips with. And then it kind of shifted into like, well, you know, if I'm going to be traveling a bunch, I don't want to be the picky person that's like constantly trying to like find the vegan option or whatever. And again, like I said, I feel like some of my diet like dictates my attitude or behavior pretty fast, and I feel like I kind of constantly need to eat something. And so anyway, I kind of moved towards like, all right, like have an idea of where and what you're eating. So like try and find an option if it is meat that's, you know, it's a relatively good option, you know, that
Yeah.
isn't, you know, some mystery meat or
True.
something that got turned out of a, you know, a mill. And so I've been just being way more picky about the meat that I've been eating. And one of the athletes for Arbor, Mark Carter, runs a ranch. His family runs a ranch in Wyoming. And I was just like, I hadn't eaten meat in like 8 months or something. And I was just like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. And I ordered like 5 pounds of meat from Carter Country Meats, and it arrived in a cooler on my doorstep like
Wow.
3 days later. And they actually have a pretty insane subscription service for meat there. If any of you guys are like crazy meat eaters, but it was like, you know, it's you know, these cattle are coming from a ranch in Wyoming, and you know, I know the photos aren't like maybe the tell all, but talking to Mark a little bit more and understanding a little bit more about the process, it's just like, you know, that these cows are like, they're living good lives, and they're, you know,
Yeah. Could you expand a little bit more on that? Like what kind of things is he saying there? What are their practices?
you know what? I honestly can't. I don't know too much
Okay.
about it. I do have a pamphlet that I could read from, but from most of what I got, it just like the perception, or at least him speaking about it, feels like it's
It's a better choice than
have
other places that you might
everything
buy
that
meat.
they need there to. Yeah, and I'll send you some like just like the literature on it. I'll send you the photo, and it's basically just like shows kind of where all the steps that these factories take versus like what they do.
Okay, cool.
But anyway, maybe zip some of that out of there if it doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
But
yeah, maybe. We'll see. Yeah. Okay, so yeah,
but yeah,
you get this box of meat on your doorstep. What's next?
and it was just, I mean, like I looked at it and I was kind of like, it felt almost like a little bit weird, you know. I'm like, I don't know if I actually want this, but I was like, yeah, whatever, you know. I ordered it. I'm gonna give it a shot, and I made like a 8-ounce skirt steak, you know, and like cooked it for 2 minutes on one side and 3 minutes on the other side with a little salt, and just like nothing. It just like very, very, you know, primal to a certain extent. And
Yeah.
I ate that and like kind of made a little bit of like rice and salad to go along with it, because I was thinking I'd need more. And I ate that and I was stuffed, you know. It's like it was 8 ounces of red meat, and I was like so full. And I honestly just felt like for like maybe a day afterward, I felt like kind of like a little bit of boost in my morale. Like I just felt like a little bit like better. And I don't know if that was like a placebo effect, but in any event, it was noticeable. And I think that's when I talked to you. I just hadn't eaten meat in a
Yeah.
really long time, and I had some, and I was like, wow, this actually, like, there is something here, and I do feel good about it. And it's something that I want to play with a little bit more and kind of like integrate as it fits into my diet. Maybe not have it every day, but yeah, I don't know. I'm also like a sucker for a tuna melt.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, but no, I would say that was like, yeah, that's been big for me. But other than that, I'm kind of creature of habit when it comes to cooking. A lot of quinoa, a lot of rice, a lot of avocado, a lot of fresh veggies. Every once in a while, like those cauliflower pizzas that are like, they're frozen pizzas, but they're cauliflower crust,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they're just so good. And you
Oh, I
kind of
know.
like eat them, and you feel not like you weigh 1,000 pounds and like shit the next 3 days, from eating a regular frozen pizza. And the,
Yeah.
the hack is like doctoring them up with your own veggies and your own,
Right. Oh.
like get a little field roast, on there, and
Field
you
roast?
can make something good. Yeah, I like the veggie based sausage. You ever
Oh,
mess with
yeah,
those?
that's right. Yeah. Oh, I love those. They're good.
Yeah, they're good. They're like insane. They must be kind of bad for you, but they taste so
Yeah.
good.
I mean, it's another processed food, but actually the ingredients in those they're not they to my knowledge of what I know and stuff, they're not the worst. Not as there are worse fake meats that you can get out there.
That's good to hear. I would say that's where my ignorance is bliss on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh yeah, I don't necessarily like take fake meat for being better for you, but I do it at least from like a moral standpoint. I feel better about eating it, and it honestly is so good. I remember eating like
Yeah.
veggie cobra dogs, getting
Oh
them from
my
Ted, and
gosh. Those are so
just
good.
being like in heaven. Yeah, like liking those way more than any hot dog that you would eat. But,
Yeah. Yeah. So what is there any kind of food that seems to help you on those long runs more than others, or is there any other kind of preparation you do either with hydration or
uh,
food or during? Like do you run with gels, or how do you, like, on a 19-mile run, you like, how do you even maintain your hydration?
so I got actually, I ran that run hungover.
Oh my god.
A little bit anyway, a little bit of it. But I was more just like it's more just like uh on the marathon. I like the gels. I had a few in my pocket, and sugar for me is like instant, just like turbo boost. You can kind of, when you're running really low, I think I was in like mile 21 or something of the marathon, and
Mhm.
um, and I had a couple of those little energy gels or the shot blocks,
Yeah.
and you can feel the sugar just be absorbed and then just burn. And it lasts for like quite a bit longer than you would think, but it's definitely not a super sustainable source of energy. But I would say, yeah, like on the 19 mile the other day, I stopped at I didn't think I would get thirsty. I've done a couple that distance without water along the way, but I stopped at a vending machine in Santa Monica and
Mm.
bought a bottle of water.
Nice. Yeah.
um,
I
but
mean,
yeah, I
especially if
would
you're
say,
hungover, I can't
oh,
I can't imagine you could make it that long.
dude, it was like a first sunny day too. I was just sweating and
Oh,
like just so parched, and I was just like, I don't know if I'm able to make this, but
yeah.
um, I don't know. Yeah, I'd say from the preparation standpoint, or just like if you are gonna go super long and you got the low blood sugar, and that could make you go out for the count. Those little, I think every brand has one. The ones I had were the I think they're called like stingers or something. They have like a little bee on them, and I'm pretty sure they're called stingers.
Uh,
And
they're little energy shots.
yeah, but I
Oh.
know like Gatorade and Cliff Bar
Yeah.
make them too, and
When I
Power
did
Bar.
the triathlon, I got a bunch of the little cliff gels, and also I
Yeah.
was putting electrolytes in my water. Do you do that?
Oh yeah. No, I've never done that.
Oh.
That's a great call though.
Yeah, and so there's electrolyte powder that you can do, and I found this to really help me, especially while I was training swimming, because that, for me, that,
Oh,
I mean, it's a lot more intense than running,
so
and
gnarly.
it would help prevent me from getting muscle cramps and stuff when I had just a little bit of electrolyte powder in my water bottle, which it's there's all kinds of different brands on Amazon and stuff like that. And another way that you can get some good electrolytes is Celtic salt. You can just put a little pinch of
Whoa.
Celtic salt in water, because that it's a certain type of salt that has the most mineral content of any other
I'm gonna
salts.
look into that.
Yeah. So simple
I would
little
say,
hack.
yeah, no, I love that. That's like kind of where I'm like at a little bit of a loss. I would say like building the, headstrong component has been big and like something that, like I told you, just like the process side of it. But I would say from the standpoint of like recovery and prep, is like where I would look to go down, what the road I would look to go down next, sort of, and yeah,
Nice. Yeah.
anything like that. I just, it's it's like now I'm like in with it and understanding it, and now I'm like, all right, now I kind of want to get a little bit better, or a little bit, I don't know, have it be something that never wanted
Yeah.
to like interfere with skating and snowboarding, but always have it like as a auxiliary thing that I know I can, if I need to get a little bit of energy out and go for a run or something. But
Yeah. Do you
yeah,
ever, when you do a long run, how many days do you take off typically? Or do you have a balance there, or do you just kind of base it on how you're feeling?
definitely, definitely on how I'm feeling. I think like in my mind, at least on the last one, the 19, I would just like, I actually skated the next day because I was like, I had in my mind, I had built up this idea that if I moved my legs and like did things that were, that had some sort of exertion in that area, I would like basically give them some life versus like
Mm,
laying in my bed all day and then
right.
really not being able to walk for a week afterward or something.
Yeah.
But I think it just kind of depends. I mean, I think that's another piece too. You can just kind of listen to your body and sort of know where
Yeah.
you're at, and from the recovery standpoint, and that's essentially what I did. I was actually for like, I'd say 12 hours I was hurting, but by like 4 o'clock the next day I was like pretty solid. And then I was like, I'm gonna kind of work through this. I'm gonna go skate. I'm gonna kind of go see how it's feeling, and
Yeah.
yeah, it was actually relatively speedy recovery. But again, I would like, if the normal days were in place, I would, go to yoga for sure, and making sure, surfing always feels good. You're always kind of feeling like you're stretching, and the water is
Yeah.
always like kind of has some healing properties. So
Right. Yeah, and I
yeah,
think it is important to maintain at least low level physical activity after you have really pushed yourself, instead of just being like, okay, I did it, now I can just be a pile on the couch and not move, cuz that, for me,
yeah.
it's like that's how I get stiff, and it
Oh,
doesn't make me want to
totally.
keep going.
No, 100%. That's it. I mean, yeah, you kind of like, I almost honestly felt like lighter on my feet the next day, like a little bit,
Yeah.
not like great, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Um cool. And all right. Well, do you have any other kind of like habits or things that either make you feel really good, or that, help improve your life, either cognitively or performance or anything like that?
Yeah, yeah, kind of. I have kind of just a dumb one that I would tell everybody to do because I think it's something I learned like 5 years ago, and like I said, when I was kind of dropping into that like process driven life, and I just honestly like, if you really like want to start thinking about making incremental small changes in your life that'll eventually amount to like, maybe doing whatever you want to do, run a marathon, whatever it is, like just make the small change. And for me, it was like making my bed every morning. And
Ah,
that doesn't mean like tucking in the corners and ironing it all out, but it's just like take the effort to get at, when you do get out of your bed, if it's at 6 a.m. or at 1 p.m., like throw your, even it all out, throw your sheet on, throw your comforter on. And like, I think it just kind of sets the tone for checking something off your list and like feeling like you're doing something that's meaningful, and not that it, it's such a small thing on the scale of things, but I think it just kind of sets the tone. And I think I read some book that was like
yeah.
make your
Make
bed
your
by some
bed.
like drill sergeant or
Dude, I've
something.
read that book as well.
Yeah, got
That's
it in like
funny.
an airport at
That's
going
amazing.
somewhere. It's like 100 pages, but I don't know. I
My
wouldn't.
grandma
That's a
gave
book
me
I
that book.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I wouldn't read it for like its granular detail, but
No,
like I
yeah,
think the some of the messages, if I remember correctly, are pretty good, and that
yeah.
obviously is the title of the book. And I will say it's like it's something I've been doing for a long time now, and it's
Right. And
nice.
I think it has something to do with like you wake up and you instantly are doing something with purpose. So it sets a
Yeah,
purposeful intention for the rest of your day. And it also, like you said, it checks something off. You've accomplished something. So you've started your day and you've already done something. And on top of that, it really like ever since I started doing it, because I do the same. Um, and I
yeah,
used to never make my bed. I used to be like, it
right.
doesn't matter at all. Like I'm just gonna go back in and mess it up again. But I've realized that it helps me to kind of relax when I'm going to bed as well. When you
Totally.
go into your room and it's all made and nice, you really feel like you're getting into a really like peaceful place, and it helps
Yeah,
me to kind of wind down at the end of the day as well.
100%. Yeah, it's just like a little bit more of like a transition into like chill time versus whatever you else you had going on. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just I again not on the high horse at all, but it's just like it's nice to wake up and turn your mind on and like start thinking, and that's like your
Yeah,
first thought. It's like, all right, I'm gonna make my bed, and then what? Go make a cup
yeah.
of coffee, and then what? And it's just like that's been like super maximizing, I'd say, for me.
Yeah, and yeah, speaking of and then what do you have a typical kind of like routine in the morning, or other than making your bed, making coffee, anything else that your typical morning looks like?
I mean, as a it has been routine. I would say I'm like pretty adverse to routines, or at least growing up I like hated sitting at school for 8 hours, and like I just not even hated school, but it was just like the routine going every single day, all day at the same time, like leave the same
Yeah.
time, get there the same time, eat lunch the same time. And so I think I've been kind of trying to avoid that for a large portion of my life. But I think, yeah, there are pieces of my day that I do kind of look forward to. And I would say, like the get up, make the bed, make the coffee type of deal is great. And maybe the caffeine is turned into like a little bit
Yeah.
more of an addiction, but whatever. But yeah, I would say aside from that, it's like usually if it's a mid work week or whatever, I'm feeling the heat a little. Like if I haven't like touched anything work related by 9:30 or so, I'm feeling like a little bit of the angst of
Right.
like, okay, I need to do something. Got to like put it out there that I'm around and available.
So
Um,
you're not going into the office every morning?
in general, so yeah, it just depends. Like, so if it's, let's say, I don't know, maybe December through March or April, I'm like probably not going into the office every day, just given
Yeah.
that I'm like traveling, and sometimes it rolls over into a week and a half, and I'll be like, I need to just kind of work from home. And but yeah, I think in general, I I I do go into the office most of the days, I'd say.
Yeah.
Maybe. But
Cool.
yeah, no huge like routine. Again, I like get in the exercise. Like I know that can happen in the morning, it can happen at night, but something I kind of figured out I needed in college, and
Yeah.
just like in order to feel sane every day. And
Dude, the in college, that's really when I started running. I'm not an avid runner by any means, but I definitely run probably at least once a week, usually like
yeah,
2 to 3 miles.
yeah,
Um, and that all started in college when I would have those super long days. Because my college career was sprinkled with a lot of semesters where I was like maxing out the amount of credits I could take just so that I could take the, more time off in the winter and
totally.
stuff like that. And so I would have these really long, intense days where I'm doing schoolwork and I'm just like on my ass all day, and then it's nighttime and it's like I can't really go skate and I just really need to expend some energy because I'm going fucking crazy. And so the
Yeah,
easiest thing you can do is just put on some shoes and just go. And so
That's
I
it.
absolutely relate
Exactly.
to that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I would say the slight level of disorganization in my life leads to like a little bit of a lacking routine, but I also don't think I would have it any other way. I kind of
Yeah, no,
know
I agree
that,
for sure.
yeah, I know the things that I need to do generally during the day, and their order isn't as important as
Yeah,
just getting them done.
right.
And then, like I'm a pretty, I spread myself pretty thin, so I like to leave it open. Somebody's
Yeah.
gonna call me at 2 p.m. to go skate. I'm like,
Then the
I don't
routine
want to
goes out
have
the
to.
window. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I'm like, I
I
don't want to
feel
say
you.
no to that. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna go.
Yep.
But
Absolutely.
yeah, I don't know.
Cool.
I'm
And then
also like, yeah, I don't know.
go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was just gonna say I would say I'm like at the level that like some sort of physical activity serves me. I do it for subsistence, and then it can go out the window if it doesn't need to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. And so I want to touch on one thing that's come up a couple times. It seems like we've read a lot of the same books, or like
Yeah.
I like reading. I'm not reading all the time, but I usually have a book that I'm going through, and when certain books along the lines of some of the ones we've talked about, like they just end up in my lap, and I really find a lot of value in them and in reading. And I'm just curious, like how big of a part is reading in your life, or is it kind of just when it happens to fall in your lap and when it feels right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like it's when I find, or what I should say, when it finds me, like when the book finds me, it it honestly, there's some of the things that I've read are nothing of greater value has
Yeah.
entered my life. Like there's just some books that really hit. Oh, they know what they're after, but it feels like it hits you in a moment where you're kind of let your guard down, and you're like looking for something to kind of permeate your soul. And then
Mm-hmm.
that book comes in and just
Right.
slaps you across the face, and you're just like,
Yeah.
oh my God, thank you to whoever and whatever descended this upon me.
Yeah.
And I would say to that extent, yeah, I mean, I I don't want like pressure myself to read, but like more often now than before, I just like it's something that I do want to do, and it's just like everything else. I mean, it's like going for a run or something. It's You don't just pick up a book and like fall in love with it, and the rest is history. It's like it
You got
takes
to put in the
practice.
work. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I've I listen avidly to podcasts, and I would say like that has definitely pushed me a lot more towards reading. I would say if you're kind of dipping your toes in on it too, like listen to an audiobook. It's like a super good way to do
Yeah.
it. It's definitely not it's not the same, but there are elements that you kind of take in, and it's kind of, again, gets your feet wet. And but yeah, I would say from the standpoint of like it's not something I do daily, but when I'm really you know in on it, I'll sit down and read 100 pages of something that is really like striking. But it just depends. It really
Yeah.
depends.
Yeah. That's cool, man. Yeah, I totally agree with the fact that books seem to find me more than I seek them out. Um,
Totally.
and
Totally.
I mean, even this book that you brought up, Grit. I've definitely heard it here and there on podcasts and stuff like that. But then it's like that moment where we're in my kitchen and we're just talking like really intensely about all these crazy topics, and this book comes out, and you say how big of an impact it made on you, and it's like, oh my God, like now is the time I need to read this book. It's like came to me and
Yeah.
it's impacting me. And so I haven't gotten
Yeah.
into it yet because I'm reading a couple books right now. But yeah, I love that.
Totally. No, I would say just like that's my best advice for reading is just like straight up ask your friends. Like
Yeah.
put
Oh
it on
yeah.
your Instagram story and be like, what book have you read that you love that you think I would love? Because more often than not, it's like, yeah, like if maybe you're shy about how much you read or whatever, and these people are the exact same way. They're
Yeah.
just like, and they probably picked up the same book, and then they're going to be like, you have to read this. This is the
Totally.
best
Yeah.
book ever. And you guys are friends and you have the same minds. And
Right.
that's just how it goes. So more often than not, that's the best way you can find something. But again, I'm not a literary scholar. I'm just,
No, dude, no, it's, yeah, no worries. Neither am I. But
yeah.
there's nothing quite like a good book. And there are people who tell me they haven't read anything since they were in high school. And honestly, I feel kind of bad for them because of the immense power that some books have had on my life.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I mean, I will say, living on the beach makes you want to read more.
Really?
At least me. Yeah. Yeah. You like
Is that where
out.
you would typically go and read? Go sit on the beach?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Nice.
Something about the beach, and maybe it's like my parents like kind of seeping through, but it's just like you go to the beach to relax. You go to the beach to chill, and when you're chilling, you're reading.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Cool,
Just
man.
a thought.
No, totally. I think that's now that I think about it, that's probably one of the biggest challenges that I have with reading at my house is I usually can't read for more than an hour without being like, just tempted by everything else that's around me. And,
Totally.
I mean, I feel like even just going down to the park or something like that, being somewhere where, the only thing that's grabbing your attention is that book. Like,
totally. Yeah. I mean, we got, relatively, we got a lot of experiences in our life, and if you can get to a place that it doesn't feel like you're in prison, but also is like kind of beautiful and relaxing, is generally a good place to read, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah.
Cool. So you got any plans for the holiday today? 420, baby.
Oh, I've already been enjoying. No, I'm not. I haven't yet, but yeah, maybe I think a nature walk might be in order.
There you go. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm actually like moving into a storage unit in the next few days, and I'm going reluctantly and gonna go to the East Coast to be with my fam for a little while. And yeah, I don't know. It's a weird time, but it does feel nice to have like, somewhat of a holiday. I would say 420, and just, acknowledging our Earth is a good holiday. I think everybody can enjoy it.
Oh, well, I guess well, Earth Day is tomorrow. I was talking about 420, like Weed Day.
No, I know.
Okay,
I know, but
got
I was kind of lumping them together.
Yeah,
so
why not? I guess
everybody,
they kind of, right.
Yeah, that way everybody can enjoy it. It's like you don't have to be, partaking. You can just love the Earth. I think this is a good time to love the Earth.
Oh, it's a great time. I mean, the Earth is so happy right now. Probably the happiest it's been in like decades.
I'd say, yeah, walk out your door, and I know you're not supposed to, but do it within reason, and just kind of give this thing a big fucking hug, because that is so obviously what this place needs. Yeah, hug a fucking tree.
Right. That's great.
Yeah. What about you? What do you got going on?
You
guys make weed cookies?
I think we are gonna make some weed cookies. Because I've got all this like weed, coconut oil infused that I made a couple weeks ago, and that's been one of the things that's gotten us through this quarantine. Is every once in a while I'll just pop a cookie, and we need to make a new batch. So today's the perfect day.
Dude, that is one thing. If you do eat an edible, and you have gone on like a long run or something, I don't know if it's just me, but I can feel like my legs kind of like release a little bit. I was noticing the other day.
So I had like as recovery, or while you're doing it?
No, as recovery, after the fact.
You know what's interesting is I've actually there's been a couple days where I've eaten a cookie, and it takes a while to kick in. There's one day specifically that I ate a cookie and I went for a run, probably like 30 or 45 minutes in, so I'm not quite like getting high yet, but like getting close. and then going on that run. And I think it's just because, you get your blood pumping and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Went on a run, came back, took a cold shower, and I was on cloud nine, dude. I was like the best I've ever felt. It was incredible.
Oh
But
my God,
so
that is amazing.
I would anybody who can't reach runner's high, there's a quick way to do
Yeah.
it. I actually heard
Well,
from this I forgot his name, but he's an author, and he's also he like does a lot of research on flow states, and he said
oh, did he write that something Superman book? Um,
I think so. I'm pretty sure actually.
what is that book
Yeah,
called?
Becoming Superman, is that what it is? I still have to read
Yeah,
that
yeah.
book. Melissa
It's called.
Rattano recommended that to me.
It's by Michael.
Hey, I just wanted to interject here. I was actually wrong. The person I'm referring to is Stephen Kotler. He had an episode about flow states and Lyme disease on the Joe Rogan podcast, and it was awesome. I recommend it. But the author of Becoming Superman is J. Michael Straczynski. But anyways, yeah. So he was. I heard him on a podcast. I think it was a podcast with Joe Rogan. And he was talking about, like, he does a lot of research in flow states. And I mean, if you look into flow states, it's basically like a lot of people say that flow states are kind of the key to happiness and the key to
Yeah.
really finding purpose in your life, because it's those moments that when you're in a flow state, you're like the most free, and you are really, you're just living and you're in the moment. And he said
Right.
one pretty cool way that, and I think this is what motivated this run that I did, is one way to hack yourself into a flow state and really get the creative juices flowing is caffeine, a run, and a little bit of THC. And so, like, if you like drink a coffee, go for a run to get like your blood really pumping, and then just smoke a little bit, or kind of do it in whatever order, and you're just like, your brain is just blasting off, and you can write, or whatever it is that needs your kind of
Oh,
creative attention, and like just enough weed where you're not like, you can still think, but enough to kind
incredible.
of open your mind. And he says it's like insane. And that's exactly what I felt when I did that, because it was in the morning. I had had some coffee maybe a little bit earlier and did all that. So anyways, that it's pretty
Yeah.
cool
No,
little life hack.
no, that makes so much sense. I like, yeah, I completely, yeah, that's how I would do it. I think
Yeah.
if I was in, and I think a lot of people, honestly, like even in professional world, like desk jockeys are like, have some order of that they adhere to. At least some of the people that I know. But
Yeah, totally. And then there's all kinds
yeah,
of, yeah, if you really dive into it, there's all kinds of like smart drugs and things like that. And, people are like, microdosing is really popular for especially like tech jockeys and things like that. And there's
that's what
all
I'm.
kinds of ways to hack yourself into a flow state.
That's my next Michael.
Oh yeah, how to change your
Do that
mind?
one. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I'll report back.
right. If anybody wants just a completely riveting book, and if you're at all interested in psychedelics, whether it's the history or the experience of them, or just really like kind of what's out there, Michael Pollan's book, How to Change Your Mind, is so fascinating, and it's just a very exciting time right now for psychedelics. Just like, not only for just kind of this, I don't know, with weed becoming
Yeah,
legal and stuff, it's like this cultural like rebirth, and as well, it is so important for psychiatry and for mental health. Like the things that the kind of studies that are going on. I mean, basically, psychedelics were shut down completely in the '60s because of some bad characters and just like the government's opposition to it, and for no real reason, it kind of was completely halted when there was really some breakthrough research going on in psychiatry. And so I'm excited for the times that we're living in right now, and reading that book will probably make anyone excited about it as well. So
yeah. I mean, exactly. I'm like, I don't even really have any experience with psychedelics, but I just like am. I I just didn't even I didn't know the half to which they were, as to why they were brought into counterculture, or why
right,
they were brought into like psychology, or how they've been studied. And it's just, it's cool to see. We live in a big world.
Yeah. Yeah,
Cool.
definitely. Um, and speaking of audiobooks, like that is one that I think it would be just as enticing to listen to as it would be to read for those who have an aversion to reading. I think it's a really important book, and it's yeah, I would recommend it highly. But
Yeah. There's
anyways,
a documentary I think called I think it's called Fantastic Guy.
Fantastic Fungi. Oh my God,
Uh,
I'm so glad you brought that up because I am obsessed.
Paul Stamets
Paul Stamets is the
something.
man. He's like my favorite person.
I haven't seen it. It's good.
Dude, it's incredible. And even if you want to, there's a couple things I want to recommend here actually. Fantastic Fungi, incredible documentary. It's about, it's about fungi, it's about mushrooms, and the first like 2/3 of the documentary is all about kind of what fungi is and like how it's actually pretty wild that we don't know more about it because it's a miraculous. It's not fungi. The fungi kingdom is not plants. It's not animals, but it's somewhere in between. And they're basically they basically mitigate life and death. They're like the centerpiece. Like they decompose everything, which sets the ground for new life to begin. And it's really ironic that they also happen to fungi produce these mushrooms that that we can ingest and we can bring ourselves closer to that place between life and death. And that's why one of the big important things of psychedelics right now is uh, they're doing studies on people who have terminal cancer and are basically facing their death, and it really helps to ease their tension in their families when they go on these high dose psilocybin trips. And it's a very safe environment, and it's with a person who's guiding you through it. But basically, they face death and they realize that it's part of life, and they can live more now that they see that there's nothing to be afraid of, basically. And it's super crazy and interesting. And Paul Stamets is one of the world's leading mycologists, and he has invented insane amounts of things. He's a super smart guy. He's a psychonaut, and he just has these incredible stories, and he's really changing the world single-handedly. And he also has this company called Host Defense, and they sell all kinds of different mushroom extracts and things like that. And I actually put lion's mane and cordyceps mushroom powder in my smoothies almost every day. And so
Yeah.
there's all kinds of health benefits. There's so much to be said about that. So I don't want to go on too much of a tangent, but
Yeah.
I love the film. It's so good, and it's so important, especially at a time right now. And speaking of, they're actually doing like a live seminar tomorrow for Earth Day with Paul Stamets and some other researchers that were in the film. And there's like a whole like panel discussions and things like that I'm going to partake in. So this podcast
Right.
probably won't come out in time for people to hear that message, but either way, I definitely would recommend watching the movie. So yeah,
Okay.
there's my tangent.
Damn. No, it's just a trip. I literally like I said, haven't really partake that much, but I just
Yeah.
but it's something that's so wild and so unknown and starting to become known, and I just I love that level of, I don't know, I feel like there are a lot of things in this lifetime and that we've had the opportunity to kind of discover, but that kind of feels like a super unknown that people are like really honing in on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cool, man. And
Yeah.
and yeah, it's not even just about the psychedelics. Like I said,
No.
lion's mane
Yeah.
is really good for brain function, and actually has shown signs of reducing Alzheimer's. And cordyceps mushrooms have been used by I think the Chinese for a long time for Olympic athletes, and it's just like it really can improve your performance. And so I take it, especially like when I know I'm going to be doing either a hard workout or something like that, it really kind of gives you that little extra edge. And there's just a lot of things nutritionally and just biologically that are really great about mushrooms. And it's just such a new landscape. Like I just feel like we're at the beginning of an era in that regard. And the documentary really opens that up. So
it's rad. I'm like, I'm on it. It's cool to learn about.
Yeah. Sweet. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me for a while, and thank you for the beautiful soundtrack of the birds and the outdoor sounds of
the dump trucks,
Southern California. Yeah, a little bit of dump truck. We're just really getting the full experience here. So.
Yeah, I apologize. Let me know.
No, man, it's great.
If there's anything too crazy, but yeah, no, no, it's nice. It's weird talking about this stuff because it's like, again, it's like almost internal ethos stuff that I'm still kind of like grappling with and trying to figure out what it all means to me and what capacity to which I want it to be a part of my life. But it's like there are just certain undeniable things that you just, you're like, I need this. I got to do this.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, everybody's on their own journey, and like, I feel like I'm just kind of getting into a lot of this stuff too, and it's just, I don't know. It feels good. It's cool.
It is. No, it's super good. And just, don't be too hard on yourself. Just freaking go for it.
Right.
Follow your gut.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for sharing your stories. And honestly, your running and is a huge inspiration to me. I think it's unbelievable that you could so quickly go to running a marathon and just like push yourself to run such long distances. I still have not really tapped into. I don't think I've ran any more than, I think the most I've run is like 4 miles. I mean, I do it somewhat regularly, but I've never pushed further than that. And you are definitely an inspiration for, like, I want to do it because I want to, I feel like I'm dying after 4 miles, but I feel like, you make me feel like I can push past that and my body will kind of adapt as I do so. So yeah.
Yeah, no, you will. You got it. It's head game. And and you got that easy. No worries.
Thanks, man. All right. Well, hopefully I'll see you soon. Hopefully this quarantine stuff can be over with and we can hang out, go skate or something. But
yeah, let's kick it. Let's go back to that Griffith Park or whatever that place.
Yeah, dude, that was so much fun. Or I guess, you didn't even get to skate the good part. Just skated the crazy quarter pipe and the shitty banks, but it was fun.
My God. I'm just envisioning you going over the handlebars on that gap.
Yeah.
Just feel like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Rattling.
Oh,
well, let's link soon.
Cool, man. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks again.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Of course. All right. See ya.
Later.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope you guys have found something useful in this interview, whether that's a new fitness tip, a new book, or maybe something new to try with your diet. Either way, I hope it can improve your life in some way. And if not, I hope you at least enjoyed listening to it. So until further ado, you can always reach me at boardbagstudio@gmail.com or on Instagram @boardbagstudio. I love when you guys reach out to me. I love answering questions. You got any feedback, anything, I'm here. So, and don't forget, you can get 10% off at rarlife.com with the code Jesse, Jesse, at rarlife.com.